The autumn of 1798 swallowed 17 people whole. They vanished along a lonely 20-mile stretch of wilderness road in Kentucky, leaving behind nothing but abandoned horses and scattered belongings that whispered no clues. But the real horror isn't just the number, it's the chilling cover-up that followed. Local authorities buried every record of the investigation. For over 2 centuries, the truth festered in sealed court documents, until a county clerk's chance discovery in 1987 ripped open the most disturbing case of organized murder in early American history. The files revealed a killing operation so methodical, so perfectly disguised behind a mask of Christian charity, that it operated in plain sight for 8 bloody years. Before we dive into the story of the farm that became Kentucky's original House of Horrors, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We're about to expose secrets that powerful families wanted to stay buried. And tell us in the comments what state you re-listening from. We love hearing from our fellow mystery seekers. The discovery that would eventually shatter the Hardin family's perfect facade didn't start with a scream in the dark. It began with simple, dusty bureaucracy in a forgotten courthouse basement. Let's set the scene. Southeastern Kentucky in 1798 was a brutal, beautiful land caught between civilization and raw wilderness. The promise of a new life drew thousands west on the treacherous wilderness road, a narrow, winding trail carved by Daniel Boone that stretched over 200 miles through some of North America's most unforgiving terrain. A single misstep could mean death by exposure, wild animals, or the human predators that haunted the frontier. Along this dangerous path, small communities like Millfield sprang up like lifelines. With barely 300 souls, Millfield was the kind of place where everyone knew your business or thought they did. Founded by Virginia Baptists, the town ran on strict moral codes and faith. Its heart was Hendrick's General Store, run by a gruff former militiaman, and the Cumberland Inn, which offered a taste of civilization with a hot meal and a clean bed. And at the spiritual center of it all were the Hardins. To the people of Millfield, the Hardin family was the picture of frontier virtue. Ezekiel, the patriarch, was a towering lay preacher whose voice could fill a church and whose sermons spoke of divine love and wrath. His wife, Temperance, was a delicate woman with a miraculous knowledge of healing herbs, often saving lives with her midnight visits. Their children, Caleb, Josiah, and the beautiful Mercy, were the pride of the community, strong, helpful, and devout. Their farm was a beacon of prosperity and, most importantly, charity. In a land where death lurked behind every tree, the Hardins were known for their extraordinary hospitality. They took in stranded travelers, healed the sick, and offered safe shelter to anyone in need. Their reputation was so spotless that guides actively sent people their way. But in the harsh reality of the frontier, trust could be a fatal mistake. And the Hardins' kindness was a perfectly crafted trap. The first crack in their pristine image appeared on October 13, 1798, when a merchant named Samuel Fletcher, a man famous for his punctuality, failed to arrive in Lexington. His business partner knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. The search party found Fletcher's horse grazing calmly, its bridle neatly hung on a branch. His saddlebags were still full of valuable goods and silver coins, ruling out a simple robbery. His personal effects were scattered in a deliberate trail, a trail that led straight to the edge of the Hardin property and then vanished into nothingness. It was as if the earth itself had opened up and swallowed him. When Constable Jacob Winters, a hardened former soldier, questioned the Hardins, their story was a little too perfect. They claimed Fletcher was nervous, hurried, and refused their help. Every family member corroborated the tale with identical, rehearsed detail. Their famous warmth felt forced now, their eyes nervous. Winters noticed other oddities: a massive new root cellar, a strangely fortified smokehouse, fresh earth everywhere. But with no evidence, the case was closed. Fletcher was just another name on the long list of those lost to the wilderness. But then the vanishings kept happening, like clockwork. A doctor carrying his entire life's savings in medical tools. An entire family lost in a blizzard. A fearless circuit preacher last seen near the Hardin farm. Each disappearance followed the same eerie pattern. No struggle, no robbery, just an empty silence. And each time the Hardins had a plausible, convenient explanation, their reputation shielding them from deeper suspicion. The first real break in the case came from the most unlikely source, a 9-year-old boy named Timothy. He told Constable Winters a story everyone else had dismissed: the sounds of screaming coming from the Hardin farm late at night. Not shouts of anger, but terrible, sustained cries of pure terror. And the dates he heard them matched exactly with the disappearances. This testimony pushed Winters to dig deeper. He found neighbors who had seen lantern light moving between buildings in the dead of night, heard the sounds of digging, and found strange, processed animal bones on the property. The family's own children had become withdrawn and secretive. Mercy, once vibrant, now had a permanently haunted look. The final damning piece came from a traveling peddler with a long memory. He told Winters about another family, the Harpers, who had operated a prosperous farm in Tennessee years earlier. They too were lay preachers and healers. They too were famous for their hospitality. And they, too, had been suspected when travelers began vanishing along their stretch of road, before they themselves disappeared without a trace. The description of the Harper family was a perfect match for the Hardins. The terrifying truth began to crystallize. The Hardins weren't just opportunistic killers. They were experienced serial murderers who had perfected their grisly operation over years and across state lines. They had learned to hide their atrocities behind the most impenetrable disguise of all: righteousness. But the proof Winters needed to act finally came from inside the House of Horrors itself. One night, a terrified Mercy Hardin appeared at his door, ready to confess everything to save her own life. What she revealed was a nightmare of biblical proportions. Her father, Ezekiel, had convinced the family they were doing God's work by executing unworthy souls. Their farm was a slaughterhouse. Travelers were evaluated, then lured in with food and drink laced with temperance undetectable herbs. They would wake up bound in a vast, hidden underground complexa dungeon disguised as a root cellar. Here Ezekiel held twisted trials, condemning people for sins like greed or pride. Some were executed immediately, in biblically sanctioned ways. Others, like the doctor, were kept alive for weeks, forced to teach their valuable skills before being murdered. The operation was meticulous. Bodies were disposed of in deep limestone caves. Belongings were sold far away to create false trails. Their charity was a brilliant scheme to build a reputation that made them above suspicion. Mercy revealed they were holding 3 prisoners right then, including a young woman and an elderly preacher. Their deaths were scheduled for the next night. Winters knew he had to act immediately. He assembled a small, brave posse and raided the farm under cover of darkness. What they found in the underground chambers was beyond comprehension. a charnel house of human remains, detailed ledgers cataloging 67 victims like inventory, and a courtroom where Ezekiel kept trophies from the dead scalps, and jewelry displayed like holy relics. The ensuing battle was violent and brutal. The Hardens fought with the fury of the damned, but they were finally captured. Temperance tried to burn the evidence, nearly trapping them all underground. The trial that followed sent shockwaves across America. Ezekiel preached from the stand, claiming divine justification for his crimes. The evidence was so overwhelming that Ezekiel, Temperance, Caleb, and Josiah were hanged. Mercy, for her cooperation, was sentenced to life in prison. The farm was burned to the ground, the caves sealed with explosives, and the land declared cursed. For nearly 200 years, the full story was sealed away by court order, the truth fading into local legend. But the questions it raises are eternal. How many other monsters hid behind a smile and a Bible? How many other dark secrets are still buried beneath the soil of the American frontier? This is the story they didn't want you to know. If you have a theory on what really happened, or if you know of another forgotten mystery, share it in the comments below. And for more stories that unearth history's darkest secrets, subscribe and hit the bell.